sure fans are really excited for that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, especially because when you know, if you've read the books and you read through Metro 2035, it kind of sets up the story and it kind of sets up this this epic journey across across Russia, and it kind of sets up the whole idea of getting to finally leave and see what's out there.
Now that we're coming out into the larger map of the open world of Russia, are we actually going to get to explore sort of on our own in an open world sense?
Yeah, so Metro Exodus isn't exactly an open world game in the traditional sense. It's still a story-driven game. The overall arc of the progression of the game is still somewhat linear in the sense that you still continue along a story, and but this time, instead of having only linear levels, we've introduced these new sandbox environments that are really large, with each of them having hours and hours of gameplay. There's still a narrative thread that carries you through each one of them, but it just gives the player so much more options, so much more you know, ability to explore, more freedom to set their own pace, and a whole lot more content than we've ever done before.
I appreciate that you give sort of, you know, a little bit more of on the rails open world style.
Yeah, pun intended.
Oh, yeah, so yeah. Speaking of the train tracks, the train is the most prevalent thing that you see in all the trailers, and that's their home base. What exactly can you do there or inside the train?
So the train is called the Aurora. The team, the Spartans, Artyom and his friends have named it the Aurora. And the train is what they leave Moscow with, and as they take their journey, you know, across the continent, they will add to it, add cars to it. In this level that we're showing off this year at E3, one of the objectives that the player has at one point is to obtain a kind of a passenger car to attach to it in order to take with them some of the survivors that they find in this area. And it's kind of the home base. So when you arrive in a new area, it's the place that you can go back to where the rest of your team is, where you might get some of your primary missions from, things like that.
So you're saying adding an extra car and saving a bunch of players, is that something, or people I should say, is that something that is possible to not happen? You wouldn't pick up an extra car? Is there any way to customize this train and have a bit of a variability with it?
So it's the train is kind of the part of that core narrative thread that carries you through, and it's part of some of what kind of relates back to the classic Metro style of gameplay and narrative delivery, where there's certain parts that are designed in a way to carry the player through and always be something that the player can go back to know where they need to go, what they need to do, what's going on, and to understand you know, like what it is that they're doing there. So it's kind of that the core of the game, where especially in these big sandbox areas, the player can kind of choose to do what they want when they want, but they can always go back to the Aurora to know, you know, like where they need to go next if they get lost, or if they get confused, or if they, you know, want to upgrade something, or, you know, swap out a weapon, or something like that.
Another system that follows the storyline as well is that you guys are having all 4 seasons in this game, correct?
Yep.
And is that going to affect gameplay anyway at all, or is it purely aesthetics and you get to see all of the 4 seasons in beautiful Mother Russia?
Well, I mean, that's certainly part of it, definitely. The game takes place over the course of a year, and through the year, depending on the time of the year it is that the player has gotten to a certain area, it'll be a different season. And in the environment that we're showing off right now, it happens to be spring. And so you see in this environment, a lot of the snow has been melting, and in spring, you know, comes storms, and so in this area there's thunderstorms and different types of dynamic weather that you'll be able to experience within the levels, and the different areas, depending on the time of year, will have different seasons that come with different weather patterns and things like that. And also the different environments are spread out across the continent, so you'll see different types of environments. Like last year, in the trailer that we made for E3, you saw more of a forest environment that takes place in the autumn season. So it's kind of a different contrast to what players are used to in the Metro series, which has always been the dead of winter.
Yeah.
Like very, very cold, snow everywhere, very gray, you know.
A huge thing about the Metro games, of course, is the customization of weapons. How exactly have you guys worked on that for Metro Exodus?
So in previous games, the customization was a little bit limited. You could, you know, maybe buy a pre-configured upgrade to a weapon. In Metro Exodus, we've redesigned the weapon system completely. and now it's more modular, and there's kind of there's like 5 hard points on every weapon where you can change characteristics of the weapon, physical characteristics that affect the attributes. Say swapping out a barrel or a stock or a magazine, but you can also add attachments, so scopes and lasers and things like that. And it's much more customizable to where you can take a weapon in its very base form, and you can customize it to approach a situation in the way that you want to. If you're going to approach a bandit camp in a stealthy way, you can attach a silencer and maybe a red dot sight. Or if you want to do something from a distance, you can attach a long barrel and a scope. There's a wide range of options for every different type of weapon. We've also added the idea of maintaining weapons. We've always had a little bit of overheat or jamming that was kind of dynamically occurring with weapon use in previous Metros, but in this game in particular, you have to maintain the weapons. So when you come to a workbench, as you're seeing right now, you'll have to clean the weapons because dirt, grime, water, things like that will actually cause the weapons to break down more often, and even possibly affect the performance of the weapons as well.
I was looking for more chores. Thank you. Is there I mean, it sounds like you're giving players a ton of options as far as is there an option to not clean my weapons? Is there a lot of options as far as, if you're going to give me all these different weapon attachments to approach the same fight, a stealth way, an aggressive way, what are the range of my options here as a player?
Well, I mean, you can, potentially if you don't maintain your weapon and it breaks down, you can, pick up another weapon that you find from an enemy that you've
so I
taken
can
out.
just, use them and toss them.
Yeah, if you really want to, yeah. But I think that players would probably spend time, choosing what they want to use, their tools, and customizing things and trying to hold on to the things that they really like. But some of that comes down to balance as well. But it's part of our survival gameplay of you need to scavenge for resources, scavenge for ammunition, craft the things that you need, to survive, like med packs and gas mask filters, things like that, and maintain your weapons. It's all part of that kind of survival sandbox gameplay that we're trying to bring to the Metro series this time around.
Sounds very fun. I like to keep my
I think it's
stuff.
fun, yeah.
One of the cool things for me about Metro is, of course, the monsters that we get to see through all of it. In the original trailer I saw, there was a cool zombie bear. What happened to it? Is it still in the game?
Yes, he's still there.
Good.
He happens to be native to a different region than
Okay.
what we're showing this time around. This region happens to be inhabited by a classic Metro creature that people have seen before called the Watchmen, and also these new ones that we've seen that we're seeing right now. Called the Humanimals. There's different, creatures in different regions. They, different ones that live above ground, below ground, and different ones that have kind of adapted naturally to their environments. And some of them are completely new because we're no longer in the Moscow Metro system, and so some mutants won't be returning, and some new ones, the player will come across, and some will be returning as well. So.
Now, before I send you away, obviously, mobility is very important in this game. You're exploring all of Russia, and sometimes you're going outside of the train. What ways can players traverse the land?
So aside from walking around,